Hello everyone, I'm Jay Joshi and welcome to the 28th episode of Learning Java. Today, we'll be learning about file handling. So, first of all, what are files? So, as you may know that you have various files in your phone, computer, laptop or any other basic device. Files are basically anything. So, it can be a Word file, a PowerPoint file, or a image file, a video file, any type of file. Files have different kinds of names and they can be used to store a large amount of data. So today we'll be learning how we can read and write character files in Java. So there are basically two types of files in Java, character files and binary files. Character files are files which have only characters, words, like word file. So just like a normal word file which has only letters or text, that's like a character file. Binary file is a file which has images or pixels, which doesn't not only has text, but it has formatted text, pictures, and other details that cannot be interpreted as text. So it can be a video, a JPEG file, or anything else. In this video, we'll be only learning about the character type of files. So one important point to note here is that character files are character oriented and binary files are byte oriented. So character files which we'll be learning about are character oriented. So there's something we need to know which is called a stream class. So before that, first we need to know what can we do with files. So files can basically be, we can read files and we can write in files. So we can read an already written file. So let's say I create a file, I can write something in that file and later on I can read that file. So that's basically what you can do from a file. Now all these file functions are in a particular package, like the scanner package is in this java.util.star. The files package are in a package called the IO package, input output package. So we can import it to use the file functions as import java.io.star. So star. So what we're doing over here is like this is for scanner and all. This IO is for input output, which is basically the files. So this star represents that all the packages in this particular IO package. So this input output package has all the functions for files. Now we need to know about something called a stream class. So stream is basically it's a internal memory concept which I'll not be covering right now in like an in-depth manner. You can go search about it on Google or something. But it's something inside which is used to transfer data. So with the help of things like buffer and all. So you can read up about all of this. So basically stream classes have two different types of stream classes. There are character stream classes and byte stream classes. Character stream classes are for character files and byte stream classes are for binary files. And each of these stream classes has particular functions. So in this video, we'll be covering, like, as I said, characters. So the character stream class has two functions, reading and writing, which we'll be covering in this video. So we'll be covering the basic functions, which are reading and writing from character files. So in my previous video, I covered exception handling and I was talking about how exceptions are very useful in file handling. So we'll be using the try, catch and finally block in file handling. So I would recommend watching that video and then watching this video to get a better understanding of the exceptions that we'll be looking into in this files video. So I have a class called files with a double S, and these are the two packages I've invoked. This is for scanner and this is for files. So to read and write in files, it has to be done either in a function or in the public static void main. So I'm going to do public static void main, and this is where I'm going to be writing my code. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to create a file basically. So to create a file, we need to write in a file, right? We won't just create a blank file. We'll create a file in which we can write something. So how do we do that? So we need to use the functions in the input output package. So we need to write something like file writer fw is equal to new file writer open bracket and then this and then close. Now let me explain this line. File writer is basically an object. Both of this file writer, it's an object, And this cannot be changed. The casing and all, how the F and W are capital, this cannot be changed. This is an object which we are using, which is already created basically in this IO package, and we are just using it. This FW is just a variable, so it can be anything, A or something. I wrote FW because file writer FW. So this is just an identifier. You can have anything as this. The new is a keyword which you should know by now. It is used to allocate memory. And again, we have the name of the object. It's a pretty basic syntax. And over here in these normal brackets, I put quotes, double quotes. And in this double quotes is the name of the file. So since we are doing a character file has an extension .txt. So if you see any Word file in your computer, it'll have the extension .txt. So I'm creating a file over here. So let's say the name of my file is something like name. So this is the name of my file, which I'll be putting in the double quotes in this line. And since it's a txt file, .txt. So what this line does over here is that it creates a file writer FW, and this is basically an object. So FW is now an object. So it's creating an object FW which can be used to write something in this file. So you're creating a file over here. I'll be also showing how we can write in a pre-existing file, but this line is for creating a new file called name.txt with the name FW. Now, as I said in my previous videos, in my exception videos, that there can be many problems with files. So we need something as a buffer. So a buffer is like a temporary storage area. So in files, buffers are very important. So we need to create a buffered writer, a buffer of a file writer. We need to create a buffer for the file writer. So we create something called a buffered writer, B-U-F-F-E, buffered writer. And I'll be calling this as the name BW. Again, this can be any name, new, and then buffered writer again. So buffered writer, and then open close brackets, semicolon. So you can see how the syntax is very similar. This again is an object. This is an identifier. This is the new keyword, and again the name of the object. And in these brackets, we write this. So what are we creating a buffer of? We are creating a buffer of FW. This particular file writer, we are creating a buffer for this file writer. So that's why we put this object FW in the brackets. Now, so we have created the file writer and the buffered writer. Now, what will we actually use to write in the file? Because this is basically just to access the writing part of the file. We are just creating a file over here, and we are just making a buffer over here. What do we actually use to write in the file? We need something called a print writer. So print writer, again, I'm just calling this PW, new print writer. This has the same syntax, and we are making a writer for the buffer. So it'll be BW. Now an important note over here is that we'll make it for BW and not FW, because we are acting upon on the buffer of the particular file, which is always a good practice. And I would recommend just doing BW for now. So we have created a print writer. You can see the syntax is fairly consistent in all of these. And this is my print writer. Now I'll be using this print writer PW to write something in my file. Now, what do I write in my file? How do I write in my file? That should be the question. So I need to use this PW to write in my file. So I can do this PW dot. So using a separator dot print. And then I can print whatever I want. Let's say I want to print hello world. So if I execute this program, what will happen is a file name.txt will be created in my laptop, and then I'm printing this, and hello world will be printed in that particular file using this particular thing. So this will be printed hello world. Now if I want to print something in the next line, I can continue printing. And there's even this thing. So let's say I want things to be printed in the next line. I can use .println. So ln should be something over here, so that this goes to the next line. I can do something like this. Hi. Something along these lines. So I'm just saying you can use the pw.print, pw.println. The function of print and println is the same as that as system.out.println. So I don't need to explain that again. So this is how you can basically write in a file. So this is how you basically create a file, and I'm writing something in the file which I've just created. Now, after you're done with whatever you want to do in that file, so after the writing function of the file, we should always close these. So since over here we have opened these particular objects, it's always good to close these. fw.close, and then so you use the dot close function. So the name of this thing, all of these three, dot close, and then open close brackets. pw.close, and then we have pw.close. So this way I've closed all the objects which I've created, and the program will work perfectly fine. Now, if you want to try this on your own in your laptop, this won't technically work if you just put name.txt. You have to put a proper file extension for this. So you can see below there's an error in file saving. You see the C colons slash user slash Lenovo slash desktop slash BlueJay. It's giving this a file extension, so where this file is going to be saved. So in your laptop, whichever folder you want to save it in, you need to put that particular extension. So something like this, and then you continue to put on the extension. So it should you should put the extension based on this format, which is showing below. What you can do is just like go on a particular folder and check whatever access of that particular folder is, whatever the location of that folder is, and just paste it over here, and the file, whatever the name of your file is, will be created in that particular folder. So that's how you do it. So this is the basic syntax for writing in a file. You have to learn this, and later on you'll just get the hang of it. Now let's say this file name.txt is already existent. This file already exists on my laptop in a particular folder. So it won't be a good practice to create the same a file of the same name again, right? So I can just make a different kind of a file with different name, right? That's not a problem. Now let's say I wanna edit the file name.txt file. I already have a name.txt file existing on my laptop, and I wanna add some content to that file. How do I do that? So the syntax is basically the same with one small change. In the first line, this line is to create a file. So if I wanna edit a pre-existing file, I need to do this, true. Now this syntax, this adding of a true, basically means that this file names.txt already exists and I want to edit it. That's why it's true. So you just learn it basically. So if you want to edit a pre-existing file, you do a true. So after the name of the file, comma true. Let's say you have many different files on a computer. You can decide whichever file you want to edit. Let's say I have a file called PE. Let's say if that's a file, then if I want to edit that, then I can do pe.text. So it depends on whatever file you have. So this is how you basically edit a file, and then you still again have to create all this. This is compulsory. And then this is whatever I want to print in my file. Doesn't matter, it'll just continue printing in the next lines. And then again, you have to just close everything. So this is how you create a new file and then edit a pre-existing file. Now, let's say I want to read a file. Let's say I have a file name.txt already existing on my laptop, and I want to take out some content from that file. I want to read some content from that file. How do I do that? So let me get rid of this. Now let's assume that the file called name.txt already exists on my laptop. We are assuming that right now. So how do I read the content of that file? So it's the same steps as this, like how we have 3 steps in this. It's fairly similar. So instead of, instead of creating a file writer, any guesses what we'll create? We'll create a file reader. And in the next line, we'll create a buffer reader. So it's nothing difficult. So Control Y, yeah. So to read a file, the pre-existing file name.txt, I can do this file reader. So instead of file writer, file reader. So I'll call this fin. Again, this can be any name. File reader fin is equal to new file reader. The rest of it is the same syntax, reader. And then this is the name of the file, name.txt. And an important note over here is that this file should exist, otherwise the compiler will throw an error. And then next line, we need a buffer. So buffered reader, I'll call this bin is equal to new buffered reader. Again, this can be any name like the fin bin. So like that, it's fairly the same syntax, and we are creating a buffer for this. So we'll have fin in the bracket. Now what do we do? So I've created the file reader object and the buffer reader object. Now, how do I read content from that file? So that's all you need for declaring the file, for declaring and initializing the file reading part from a file called name.txt, which already exists. Now, if I want to read a content from the file, read some content from the file, I'll use the dot read line function. So this is what I'll use. Now, let's see how this will work. Let's say I declare a string over here, string s is equal to, let's say this is a null string. If I do something like this, s equal to s dot, s is equal to, sorry, bin dot read line. Now, what this will do is, this is a very important concept. This is bin, the buffered reader. So what we are doing is we are using the dot read line function. So what this does is we are using the bin object, which is basically the file, the name.txt. We are reading the first line of bin. And what reading a line is, it basically means copying the content of that line. So whatever the content of the line, of the first line, I should say, in the name.txt file, that'll get copied in string s. So string s will have the value bin. So bin, that's the name of the object, whatever you have, dot read line. So use the read line function, open close brackets. So you'll read the first line. If I want to read the second line, I can have something like string s2 is equal to bin dot read line. So I can have something like this. So this s will store the content of the first line in the file name.txt. And if I do bin read line again, bin.read line again, the control will get transferred to the second line of the file, and s2 will store what's in the second line. Then I can have s3 again is equal to bin.read line, the control gets transferred to the third line. So if you have like 10 bin.read lines, at the end of those 10 bin.read lines, the control will be on the 11th line, because you are again reading every single thing. So if I have something like this over here, so I can do something like this. This is a better example. So I can do system.out.print ln, and then I can do this, and the same thing for this. So control C, control V. So this code is basically what it's doing. It's printing the first two lines of this file. So bin.read line, just a moment, this won't work because we just can't do this. So I have to actually put it in this. So I have to put it in the string, and then it'll work. So I can do something like this. And then I do s is equal to bin.read line again over here, and then I can do print this again. So what this code does is it prints the first two lines of the file fin. So first I'm making a string, s is equal to bin.read line, it reads the first line of the name.txt, then it prints whatever was in that file, then it again reads the second line over here, then it prints that. Now if I want a loop, if I want to do this automatically, there's a simple code you can write. So think of it logically. Let's say you have a file with about 80 lines, right? In 80 lines you have content written. So the 81st line will have no content. So when I do s is equal to bin.read line, on the 81st line, the line will be null. There won't be any content. So this string s will become null. So I can create a for loop or any while loop, do while loop using that. So I can do something, I can make a loop with something like this, s equal to bin.read line. So it'll read the first line, and then I can have a condition like this, a loop condition like this, while s not equal to null or null, and then while it's not null, and then it'll print s equal to bin.read line, and then this. So this is a simple code to print every single line of a file. So what it's doing is, first I'm initializing and declaring string s is equal to bin.read line, it reads the first line. Let's assume that the file has 80 lines of content written on it. So while s not equal to null, instead of null you can just put this, only this, so anything is fine, so I'll just put this for now. So while s not is equal to null, so over here s will have some content, whatever the line said, let's say hello, so it won't be null, so then it'll print whatever the content was, let's say hello, and then s will read what's in the second line. So the control gets transferred to the second line, so s will store what's in the second line. Then again s won't be null because there'll be something in the second line. Like that, this loop will keep on going. And let's say we go to the 81st iteration. So this will read the 81st line and S will become null. And so this condition becomes false, so it comes out of the loop. So this is a very simple code to read, to print out what's in a file. So you can use this in many other ways. Let's say I can read what's in the first line over here and then perform some particular operation based on the content in the first line. So this is basically normal string, integer, other operations. And so it's like this. It's very useful, just basically reading from a file. And again, after you're done, don't forget to close all the objects. It's a very good practice. Pin.close and then pin.close, right? So this is my code complete. So that is basically it for the file reader and file writer. This is how you can basically read files and write from files. But if I execute this program, it will not work. Why? Because as I said in the beginning, there can be many errors in file handling. So whenever we are doing any function related to file handling, we always need to do exception handling. So as I explained in my previous video, we can use the try, catch, and finally block. So since this part, this entire file part of the code has a chance of having an error, we can put this entire thing in a try block, right? So this entire thing has a chance of having an error. We can put this in a try block, and in the catch block, you can ch. We can have any specific kind of exception like find not found exception, but I'll just put exception.e because I want to catch all kinds of errors. So e can be any name. And then if let's say I catch an exception, I can print out some error message, or I can use the technical error message with something like e.getMessage. So this will just generate an automatic technical error message, the e.getMessage function, if there's an error in this. So if there's an error in the try block, it'll come to the catch block. It's any exception and it'll print this. And if you want to have a finally block, you can have that also. Again, you can put whatever you want in any lines of code in this finally block as well. So this is how your code will work, and this is compulsory for the file writer and the file reader functions. So whenever you're doing any kind of file kind of operation, you have to put it in a try block and then have a catch block and finally if you want, otherwise the code will not execute. So that's pretty much it for the file reader and file writer. I would say, again, as I say every time, have fun with it, experiment with, create your own files, read, write from your own files, so that you get a hang of it, and then you can start writing your own proper program codes based on it. So that's it for today, everyone. Thanks for watching, and if you have any queries, doubts, or suggestions, you can mail me. My email will be in the description down below, and thanks again for watching.